Steel City. Is everybody ready to go? It's proclaimed the greatest radio show.
Welcome, fans, to the best mocking show in the world, The Spread. I'm your host, Jim Sella, in studio with Big Easy and JDash. We're about to do our mock draft 2.0 for The Spread. I don't know if all the fans listened to the first one. If you didn't, you can go back and check that one out. This one's a little updated. Some free agents have signed. Some needs have changed a little bit with teams. They've kind of let out a little bit more what they're looking for. So me and Dash hit it hard, did the research, and we're ready to go.
Let's do it. Start with Tampa Bay, #1 pick overall.
Famous Jameis, right? That's what everyone else got lined up. What do you got?
That's the consensus pick
Yeah.
on everybody's draft board now. There's no reason to go away from it, I don't think. But, yeah, they need a quarterback because they have good receivers in Mike Evans and Vincent Jackson on the outside. Like I was saying in our last mock, they got Safarian Jenkins at tight end. I like what they have on offense. But the one problem is, if they bring him in, their pass blocking isn't that great. So they're really going to have to focus later in the draft on the offensive line, if you ask me. But last year they signed that Anthony Collins offensive tackle to a 5-year, $30 million deal, and they were not happy with how he played this past season, and they're already trying to deal him, and if they don't, they might possibly just straight out cut him.
Tampa Bay's in shambles. If they didn't need a quarterback so bad, I would say they should move down in the draft and collect picks. They got nobody at quarterback. They tried out Josh McCown last year through free agency. It didn't work out. Mike Glennon has already proven he's not the quarterback of the future, although he is a good backup quarterback and he's a good guy to have on your team. So for Tampa Bay, it's between Mariota and Winston, and whichever one they fall in love with. I get what you're saying, Dash. You could be the best quarterback in the world. If you don't have anybody blocking for you, you're going to be garbage. Look at David Carr in Houston. He never had a chance. The guy was getting sacked 85 times a year. Whether he was good or not, we never got to find out because he just got creamed every time.
Yeah, I mean, Tampa Bay isn't perfect on defense. They could use help. But if you're going to go with a quarterback first overall, we're going to say Jameis Winston here, then you really just need to focus your draft on keeping him healthy and upright all season and giving him the best available options you can. You might even want to think about a running back in later rounds. That is one of the deeper positions in the draft.
Ron Jaworski's pretty much the only guy who thinks that Winston will not go #1 overall. Winston is the prototypical size quarterback in the NFL now. He is 6'4", 231 pounds. He is a pocket passer. A lot of people have a misconception that he is going to run around the field all the time. He's not. He's real good in the pocket. He makes good reads for a young quarterback. He started every game during his 2 seasons at Florida State, winning his first 26, but then he lost the 2014 national semifinal. Wasn't it easy?
Believe it.
Okay. He's the only college quarterback since 64-65 to win his first 26 starts.
Yeah, he was a beast in college for sure.
The stats are there.
Listen, I've never been one to be sold on a quarterback in a draft unless it's top flight QB. And really, I don't think he is either. I mean, I'm not saying he's not going to be a good quarterback in the NFL, but I'm not 100% sold on him. And our #2 guy in the draft here, a lot of people are 100% sold on.
So the consensus #1 player on most people's board is Leonard Williams, the D lineman out of USC. And with the Tennessee Titans on the clock, this could be a good fit.
Yeah, there's still the possibility that Marcus Mariota is the pick here. But really, when you look back, they missed on Vince Young, they missed on Jake Locker, and you got to remember, Whisenhunt likes big arm pocket QBs.
Yeah,
and that isn't Mariota's style. So
he's big, he's just not a pocket QB. Williams is 6'5", 302 pounds with 34-inch arms. That helps out a lot for a defensive lineman. If you can come off the ball quick and you got those long arms to punch the offensive lineman, he's off balance already, and you can either swim through him or just take the hard line around him like James Harrison used to always do.
There's still talk that they might want to take an edge rusher, and Fowler's name came up and Gregory's name came up, but I think it wouldn't be smart to pass on Williams for one of them two here.
Listen, Williams at defensive end can be your edge rusher. I know they have Dick LeBeau in Tennessee, and they're probably going to run the 3-4, and he's not fast enough to play linebacker. But he ran a 4.97 40, and he had a 4.53 20-yard shuttle. That's pretty good for a guy his size. So coming up off the ground, with a guy who has his hand on the ground, he's going to be quick off the ball. And, if he uses that punch effectively, he's going to be really fast, like a Dwight Freeney, as far as defensive linemen go.
And LeBeau's in Tennessee now, so they're going to want to give him some weapons to work his magic. And really, if they don't go quarterback, which would be Mariota here, there's pretty much no doubt that they would go defense, and it would be, we would say, Leonard Williams here. But they also need help at the wide receiver, too. And I like a couple guys like Kevin White and Amari Cooper, but at the number 2 pick, I don't think it's worth it right now.
No, and another thing that Leonard does real well, he's a read and react two-gapper. He likes to play peekaboo with running backs. With the offensive strategy of the college game moving into the pro game, with this stupid read option that all these teams are running now, it's good to have a lineman who played well against that in college, because now he's going to have to see it in the pros more than you would say 5-10 years ago. The one weakness, though, is sometimes he's a little bit late out of his stance, and sometimes he can get caught on his heels a little bit. I think that might just come from when you are as good as he is in college, you're so good that you dominate everybody physically that you don't have that, I got to go 100% all the time. He'll get knocked down a couple times in the pros, knocked right on his ass, and he'll figure it out. Hey, I got to put in a little more work if I want to be as dominant in the pro as I was in college.
Listen, they want a pass rusher, and he can do that. They were ranked 16th in sacks last season, and they need someone to stop the run too, and he can also do that. They were ranked 31st against the run. So he can fill both those voids and help out in the run and the pass.
They need it, and Dick LeBeau, definitely the guy that knows how to get the most out of them.
All right, what do we got at number 3 here? Jacksonville. All signs point to them going defense first.
Yeah, the Jaguars got their quarterback of the future last year in Blake Bortles, so we know for sure they're not going to be looking at Marcus Mariota. I think they're going to go Dante Fowler Jr. here, the outside linebacker from Florida. Easy. Did Florida have a good year last year?
Nah, Florida's been struggling.
Ever since Urban Meyer left, huh?
Wow. I'm not going to say Urban Meyer's departure was the downfall of that. It's just, Florida State's come up. They just haven't been getting a talent from Florida lately, so that hurts.
It's tough to recruit in that state when there's so many big programs.
Right.
Other guys that are possible options here are Randy Gregory, Shane Ray, and Vic Beasley, but everything I've been reading has been saying that Dante Fowler Jr. is by far the Jacksonville Jaguars' favorite player out of the 4.
Fowler got a 7.02 grade from NFL.com. That's out of 10. That's one of the higher grades out of most players. He's 6'3", 261 pounds with a 33 3/4 inch arm length. That, again, helps him, just like we were saying with Leonard Williams. At outside linebacker, he runs a 4.6 40. That's pretty fast. The one thing that I don't like is only 19 reps on the bench press.
Another thing Jacksonville is going to have to look at some point in the draft is an offensive tackle, because they let up 71 sacks last year, the most in the NFL. And they've spent a lot of picks in the draft over the past few years on linemen, and it could be the same thing this year, maybe a 2nd or 3rd round pick on a lineman.
Yeah, later in the draft, they definitely need to build some depth along the O-line, but early they need some defensive help. They were ranked almost dead last, at least in the bottom 5, in basically every defensive category that matters. Fowler's that guy that can help them out. Who do they play in a division with? They have Indianapolis, they have Houston,
and Tennessee.
So you got to get after the quarterback, especially when you're going after Andrew Luck. Look what all those teams were doing when Peyton was in Indianapolis. They were trying to stock up on pass rushers to get to him. Fowler, he's a well-built, he has an athletic frame. Like we said, he has really long arms. He lost 25 pounds since starting in college, and he's more of a speed guy now. Before, he was closer to a DN, maybe a D tackle at around 290 pounds. But this guy at 261 with that kind of explosiveness, if anybody was a Steeler fan and watched Lamar Woodley early in his career when he wasn't lazy, he was unstoppable the first couple of years.
So that takes us to number 4, the Raiders. Raiders fans hate us.
Raiders fans do not like us. Raiders fans do not like anything because their team's pretty much been garbage their whole entire life.
Well, really, why they're so mad is because I said I don't believe that Derek Carr is the future quarterback there. I could be wrong. I remember back in the late 80s I was wrong once.
He's the future quarterback there. He's just the future garbage quarterback there. That's all.
Well, who knows? Maybe they're right. I'll admit if I'm wrong. I've been wrong before. It's no big deal.
Easy. He's your pen pal, isn't he?
You might not admit if you're wrong. You still say Russell Wilson's a garbage quarterback.
I don't think Russell Wilson's a good quarterback. I think he's good enough, and he's on a really good team.
But the Raiders, they have a new head coach in Jack Del Rio. They brought in Rod Woodson to be their D-back coach and Ken Norton Jr. as their defensive coordinator. I like the sound of that.
I liked Ken Norton Jr. He was mean.
I like Rod Woodson. He was a beast.
He was. We should have moved him to safety. Everybody else did, and look what happened. He was beast. But I think the Raiders are going to go with wide receiver Kevin White out of West Virginia. He got a 6.69 grade off of NFL.com. The guy runs a 4.35 40. That's pretty insane for somebody who's 6'3", 215 pounds.
He looks good, and he rose up everybody's draft list. But Amari Cooper's still a possibility here. Some people still think Cooper is the better receiver. But really, if Derek Carr is their future, the best thing they can do is start putting weapons around them and doing it fast. One person that left a comment, Mariah Carey fan or whatever, was saying they might actually look at Randall Cobb and Julius Thomas, bringing them in. Now, if they did something like that, I'm not quite sure if they would still bring in a receiver like Kevin White or Amari Cooper, because they want an edge rusher too, maybe a defensive end like Fowler, Gregory, Beasley, or Ray.
The Raiders always get enamored with speed, though. Look at Darius Hayward-Bay. They love that wide receiver who's fast, and White has the speed at 4.35. He had a spectacular senior season with 109 catches, 1,447 yards, finished 3rd and 6th respectively in the nation. He was one of the 3 finalists for the Blitnikoff Award. That's for the best wide receiver. He started the season with 7 consecutive 100-yard receiving games, which is a school record. He has the desired NFL frame. He goes after the ball consistently. He's not somebody who just lets it come to him. He did have some issues with drops in 2013, but everything that was thrown to him in 2014 pretty much ended up in his hands. The one guy I hear a lot of people comparing him to is DeAndre Hopkins. I know how much you love him.
I do like DeAndre Hopkins. I hope he can be better than that, though, if you're going to take him at number 4. It's not like I hate DeAndre Hopkins, but I don't think he would be a top 4 pick in a draft.
That's the Raiders, man. They like that speed. They need a wide receiver. They're gonna. The problem with the way the Raiders do things is they always reach and they're going after these guys instead of like most teams that draft well and take the best player available, or they have 2-3 needs and they take the best player available out of there. The Raiders, it's like they only believe in the combine and don't give a crap about game film. I'm not saying White's bad.
Yeah,
I think White is a great wide receiver. But like you said, this is a high pick for wide receivers. But I really, really believe they're either taking White or Cooper, and I think it's going to be White.
Oh, I don't disagree. I think it's going to happen too. But Al Davis is gone now. We know that. And they got a new regime in here. So we'll have to see what happens. I agree, though. Wide receiver. Let's move on to number 5, the Redskins. They need help on their offensive line. They need a lot of help on the defensive side, too.
Yeah, the whole Redskins organization's a mess from their owner all the way down. RG3 was great, then he was hurt, and then he was hurt and terrible, and people were calling for his job. They don't know what the hell they're doing.
Yeah, but they're going to stick with RG3. It would be nice to see him draft an O-lineman here, maybe protect him a little better. But really, they need more help on the defensive side, and there's better players defensively here for this pick. You got D-tackle Danny Shelton's a possibility. Safety Landon Collins is even a possibility to go this high.
They like safeties. They took Sean Taylor high in the draft, not a few years ago, but a few years back. But I think they're going to go with outside linebacker Randy Gregory from Nebraska. He's a big, strong guy. He got a 6.64 grade off of NFL.com. And just 2 seasons in Nebraska, Gregory ranked 9th on the school's all-time sack list with 17.5. As a junior in 2014, he was named second-team All-American and first-team All-Big Ten. He missed 2 games and played sparingly in 2 others due to a knee injury he suffered playing basketball in high school. He still managed a team-high 7 sacks for 67 yards and losses. His 10.5 sacks in 2013 as a sophomore were the most ever by a first-year Husker, and he was voted Defensive MVP that year.
I like him here at number 5. Fowler, Beasley, and Ray are also possibilities if they're still around. But yeah, they definitely need to go defense here.
6'5", 235, 4.64 40, and 24 bench reps. That's pretty solid combine. We've said it before, the combine doesn't always win you a draft spot, but it doesn't hurt when you have a good one like that.
Another possibility is trading back with all these defensive players still here, try to get a couple more picks so they can work on this defense.
I think that'd be a really smart move.
Chip Kelly would do it.
Chip Kelly. I think it's a smart move if Washington would do it. I'm not saying Gregory isn't worth it, but at 5, it just seems like so many teams are reaching this year. Everybody's saying how deep this year's draft is at a lot of positions, but there aren't a whole lot of standout guys that you can say are surefire, first-round picks. It's weird.
If Chip Kelly wants Marcus Mariota, this is the perfect spot for him to trade up to. The only problem is I don't think the Redskins would want to trade as far down as 20. They wouldn't want to let all these guys slip away. They might want to go to something like 14 would
Aren't
work.
the Skins in the same division as the Eagles, though?
Yeah.
Are they gonna let the Eagles make themselves better with that kind of trade? Doesn't that kind of
Well,
hurt you in the
do
long
they
run?
even like Marcus Mariota? Maybe they think that'd be the perfect trade.
I mean, maybe. Usually you don't see division teams make a big deal like that.
Right. But yeah, the Eagles will have to trade up for Mariota there because at number 6, that is where we have him going.
New York Jets.
Yeah, Rex Ryan's finally gone. It's about
Rex
time.
Ryan.
I could not stand that guy.
He got that tattoo of the Jets changed to make it look like a Bills player now.
Well, he got LaShawn McCoy now at least. That's a good start.
Yeah, but they have, what's his name at quarterback? E.J. Manuel.
Is that going to be the starter?
That's Buffalo's quarterback.
I think they traded for Matt Castle, quite honestly. Or
Oh,
the
yeah, they
rights
did.
to Matt Castle, maybe. I don't know if he's signed.
That's what it is. But really, the Jets need everything outside of defensive line. But they're talking big names in free agency, too. Let's not forget they're talking
They got a
about
lot of
bringing
cap room.
Revis back.
They want to bring Revis back. They want to retool and make a run at it. They think that the Patriots are going to start going down now. Brady is eventually going to not play again. And if the Jets can start to retool now and build a really good, solid core in the next 2 or 3 drafts, they're going to be peaking right at the right time to try to take advantage of that division.
Well, listen, they didn't get what they wanted out of Percy Harvin.
No,
They
he's
were
gone.
thinking about restructuring him, but now they traded for Brandon Marshall, so they're just going to cut Harvin. But
Yep.
I think that's a pretty good upgrade.
Yeah, Marshall's a better player, and he's costing him $3 million less.
Yeah, so that
One
would
of the
be.
best trades you can make.
I'm not sold on Geno Smith. Well, I don't think anybody's sold on Geno Smith. I don't think he's the future there. Marcus Mariota, bring him in. You start trading for Brandon Marshall, bringing guys in. I think you could put an offense together pretty quick.
Yeah, even though we're saying that Mariota is going to go 6 here to the Jets, I have heard some reports coming out of New York that the Jets will stick with Geno Smith. This could be smoke screens that a lot of teams like to put out there so that nobody above the Jets, go and take Mariota. Oh, okay, they don't want it. Teams like to try to finagle him. If they think they can draft a player, maybe Washington thinks the Jets really, really want Mariota, so they pull what the Giants and San Diego did, and they draft him and then try to trade him to him and take advantage of just being 1 pick ahead. So the Jets put out the smoke screen, we don't want Mariota, then they go and take him at 6. But I don't think, and people are going to hate on me for saying this probably pretty hard, I don't think Mariota and Smith are that different of a quarterback. Mariota might be a little more accurate.
Yeah, I think Mariota might be a little bit better. Still, I don't see him as a franchise quarterback. But it wouldn't be surprised if they passed on him and went with an outside linebacker, one of these elite outside linebackers left, like Vic Beasley or Shane Ray. I think Vic Beasley might be a little bit better of a fit for New York. But they signed linebacker David Harris for 3 more years, so he's coming back now too. I think Mariota's the pick here.
Yeah, he'll probably get taken by him. He's a fast guy. He said his biggest problem with the NFL is going to be huddling, and I probably said this on the last mock draft segment. So if you can't huddle, man, I don't know. I just really, really worry about you as a quarterback. I mean, Easy knows how to do a huddle.
All right, let's move on to number 7, the Chicago Bears. They're coming off of one of their worst seasons in the past decade.
The Bears had a horrible time on defense last year. Brian Urlacher was dying alive inside watching the games.
Yeah, and their linebackers they got now, Lance Briggs, he's 34 years old. You got to find a replacement for him eventually.
Briggs was a good linebacker through his career. He had some troubles a couple years back with contracts in Chicago and felt they were slighting him, but they gave him what he wanted. It worked out.
DJ Williams is a free agent. He's 32 years old. Safety Chris Conti's 26. He's becoming a free agent, and Chris Tillman's 33. He's a free agent too. So they got a lot of work to do on his defense. His defense looked horrible last season.
Well, I think a good start would be to take the linebacker who's shooting up most teams' boards, and that's Vic Beasley from Clemson. He has a 6.68 grade from NFL.com, a 4.53 40, 35 bench reps. I'm pretty sure it's 225 pounds.
Beast mode.
That's like bench pressing easy 35 times. Easy. What are you tipping the scales at nowadays? Good old 230 maybe.
Listen, we got to call this guy Vic Beastly.
Vic Beasley, 6'3", 246 pounds. He totaled 52.5 tackles for a loss, 33 sacks, 29 quarterback pressures, 11 pass breakups, and 7 forced fumbles, 2 recovered fumbles, 2 touchdowns, and 1,421 snaps. That's crazy, man.
I don't even want him at the Bears now. I want him at number 3.
Moving to Pittsburgh at 22.
No, but really, the Bears are going to draft the best linebacker available, I believe, whether it's Fowler, Ray, Beasley, Gregory, whoever it is. I don't think they're going to go with Danny Shelton. Everything I read said Shelton's just not the guy they're looking at. They want a linebacker.
It all depends on what kind of defense they're going to run up there. I don't remember who
they run a 3-4.
Their defensive coordinator is now with, what's his name, getting fired. Did Tressman got fired, right, in the offseason? John Fox. John Fox is in Chicago now.
Get money.
Fox ran a 4-3 in Carolina when they went to the Super Bowl.
You know, they'd actually like to get a top cornerback too, but I don't think they're going to do that in the draft. I think they'd rather try to do that in free agency and go with the outside linebacker in the draft, but there is the possibility of them maybe drafting a cornerback in the 2nd or 3rd round.
Well, if they go Beasley, I think it's a good pick. He's an explosive athlete. He's always first off the snap. He's a true edge rusher who can torque his hips and shoulders to turn the corner. He just has, I don't know. I don't even know how to explain it. He looks like a pass rusher. When the guy's out there coming off the ball, he has a nose for it. He's going to get in there quick. He's going to get underneath the offensive lineman. He's going to force fumbles. He's going to come over the backside of these quarterbacks. And I know you can't lay him out anymore like you used to be able to, but he's still going to wreak havoc. And you don't always have to get a sack to cause a quarterback to have a bad day. He's going to be in the quarterback's face all day long, every game that he's healthy. So he's definitely a difference maker. And if the Bears want to get back on track defensively to anything like they were for pretty much our whole lives, they need to take Beasley here. Or like you said, if he's gone already, the best pass rusher that's available.
Now the Falcons at number 8 want the same thing that all these other teams want. They want the pass rusher, and they're going to take the best one available because there is going to be another big-time outside linebacker / DN, whatever you want to say, available in Shane Ray.
And you know, the Falcons actually really want Vic Beasley because he grew up in the Atlanta area, so they would really like to get their hands on him. But he's going to be gone, so...
Possibly, unless the Bears decide Shane Ray's the better fit for them, then Beasley could fall to him.
Yeah, I don't know. Like you said, the Bears are looking more for linebacker help. I have seen Shane Ray listed as a linebacker or a defensive end. It kind of depends on where you look. He's 6'3", 245. He didn't do all the combine activities. He did have 21 bench reps. I don't think he ran the 40. He's waiting for his pro day. As a junior in 2014, he was named the SEC Defensive Player of the Year. He earned first-team All-American status after leading the SEC in sacks and tackles for a loss. He was All-SEC First Team and a Hendricks Award finalist for the nation's top defensive end. He was a semifinalist for the Lombardi Award. His 14.5 sacks in 2014 are a new school record and ranked 3rd nationally. The thing with college is you can tell about all these awards. There are so many awards in college that anybody who's going to be taken in the first round of the NFL draft probably won at least one of them.
They were actually interested in Fowler Jr. a lot too before his stock rose, but I think they know now they're not going to be able to get him. Beasley is still a possibility, another guy they like, as you said, but Arik Armstead's another guy that can start being considered around this range.
The one weakness with Ray is he does lack ideal length as an outside rusher. At times he was engulfed and glued to the bigger tackles he faced. He needs to get better coming off the ball real quick. He needs to have a stronger punch off the snap. If he gets wrapped up in the arms of some of those 6'5" to 6'7", 6'8" offensive linemen, he's going to have a hard time getting to the quarterback.
That still leaves Danny Shelton on the board. Now, I hear The Giants at number 9, everyone is still saying that it is going to be Brandon Scherff, and that is the consensus pick. But they went offense the past 3 years. Their offense was ranked number 7 overall last season, while their defense was ranked 31st. So I think Shelton is the better pick here.
Yeah, the Giants, they had a hard year last year. Eli did some good things, but he also did some bad things. The offensive stats were kind of there, but is that a product of the defense being so bad that the offense had to put up those types of numbers to even have a shot at winning?
I don't know. Odell Beckham Jr. is a beast. That's all I know.
Yeah, with Victor Cruz coming back next year, they should be real beast on offense.
Yeah, but what they really need is an upgrade on their defensive line. They could use a linebacker and possibly even some help in their secondary. But really, defensive line to me is what they got to focus on most. And with Danny Shelton still available, I think it's a perfect pick. But they could go safety, Landon Collins, maybe cornerback Trae Waynes. I think it's still a little high for those two, though.
Shelton was named first-team All-American by USA Today and second-team All-American by Walter Camp and CBS Sports in 2014 as a senior. He was also the first Husky to earn academic All-America first team since 1991. He led the nation in fumble recoveries with 5, and he had 16 tackles for a loss in 2014. That's big for a nose tackle. He's 6'2", 339 pounds. We've seen Casey Hampton here in Pittsburgh plug some holes in the middle of our defense for a long time. The dude didn't get too many tackles for a loss because all he did was take on 2 blockers. But the thing Shelton's really good at is taking on 2 blockers. He had 34 bench reps at the Combine. He's a guy that can open up holes for linebackers to get to the quarterback. Any successful linebacker in the NFL will tell you it's a product of how good your defensive line is. Aaron Smith, Brett Kiesel, Casey Hampton, they clogged up the O-line. They let all of our linebackers in Pittsburgh have those big years. If it wasn't for those guys, Harrison doesn't win Defensive Player of the Year. Shelton bends well for a big man, and he has the ability to play with leverage. He's a space eater who's able to maintain good positioning against double teams. He consistently gets his hands inside offensive linemen first, so he controls the play pretty much from the start. The one weakness he has his girth and leverage potential can be a little inconsistent at getting push off the snap. He dominates lesser centers, but doesn't seem to look nearly as dominant against the more talented guys. Again, this could be a product of a young guy just trying to get by on athleticism and not learning his trade. And once he gets skilled in the trade, it might help out.
Yeah, if the Giants decide not to take him here, he's a possibility for the Rams at number 10, too. Their defensive tackle, Michael Brockers, their 2012 first-round pick, is going to be a free agent after the 2015 season. They're going to need someone to fill in for him. If Mariota would happen to fall to the Rams, I think they would definitely take them. I think you agree with me on that. But if you look, Fisher over the past 3 years used 2 second-round picks and 1 third-round pick on cornerbacks. But one of them, Janoris Jenkins, is going to be a free agent at the end of the season, so Trae Waynes is a possibility too. But with the Giants passing on Brandon Scherff, him still being the top offensive lineman available, the Rams need help on their offensive line. I think he's the best option here.
Scherff's a big boy, offensive tackle out of Iowa, 6'5", 319 pounds. As a senior left tackle, he won the Outland Trophy and was named first-team All-American by Walter Camp, CBS Sports, and USA Today. He voted first-team All-Big Ten and named MVP at Iowa's award banquets. He's a weight room star who can lift a house, a powerful run blocker with exceptional power in his hips and his legs. He moves well laterally and rarely allows defensive ends to set the edge against him, which is big in the NFL nowadays, especially with a quarterback like Sam Bradford, who it's probably going to be coming off of 2 major knee injuries. He's not going to be the most mobile guy. You need somebody that can really plant his feet down and keep his quarterback upright. Some of the weaknesses, though, is he will default to a sumo-style power rush rather than keeping his legs turnings at all time. So he just gets his upper body and lower body a little bit out of sync and tries to go all arms.
Well, last year the Rams drafted Greg Robinson, offensive lineman, with their number 2 overall pick in the draft. And it wasn't enough yet. They need to keep adding pieces to this line. They also need a receiver, though, too. And if Cooper or White are there, that's going to be tempting.
Yeah, Cooper could be a good fit for St. Louis.
But I think it's more important to keep Bradford healthy, keep adding to this line. you win games by building from the inside out.
Oh, yeah. And we know Jeff Fisher definitely agrees with that philosophy. You've seen the teams he built in Tennessee. You control the offensive and defensive line of scrimmage, you generally win games. And Scherff's definitely going to help them control the offensive line.
They could look at running back later in the draft, too. I know they like Trae Mason. I like him, too. He had a pretty good rookie season last year. But they need another running back and possibly a 3-down running back. Trae Mason might be more of a 3rd-down back.
It's weird. Fisher's been in St. Louis for a couple years now, and you would think you'd have the team a little bit more shored up than what they are. They can't find an answer at running back. They got no wide receivers. Their quarterback keeps getting hurt, which isn't Fisher's fault. The defense didn't play as well as I thought it was going to last year either.
Yeah, they weren't as good as you thought, but they were still a good defense. I think that's what he worked on most, and they're trying on the offense. Like I said, last year they went with the number 2 overall pick, offensive line. They need to keep doing that, shore up the offensive line.
Hope it works out for him. I got respect for Fisher. He runs a good program.
Number 11, the Minnesota Vikings. Now, they're looking to add a D tackle in free agency. If they're not able to, maybe they think about Danny Shelton if he falls this far. But they have a lot of needs. General Manager Rick Spielman actually said he identified 8 needs that he could think about in the first round.
Well, one of their needs is wide receiver. They got to put talent around Teddy Bridgewater, or as you like to call him, Terry Bridgewater. They're probably going to lose Adrian Peterson. It doesn't seem like he's coming back. There's a big rift there between them and the organization. They need a big playmaker on the offensive side. Cordero Patterson proved to not be it. Charles Johnson, wide receiver for them, he's going to be a good player. He's not going to be a game breaker. I see him taking Amari Cooper here, the wide receiver out of Alabama. He got the 2nd highest grade from NFL.com. At 6'1", 211 pounds, he runs a 4.42 40, 3.98 20-yard shuttle. He had a 120-inch broad jump, which is pretty far. In 2014, as a junior, he was the winner of the Blitnikoff Award, which goes to the nation's most outstanding receiver, and was a finalist for the Heisman Trophy. He was a unanimous first-team All-American for the Walter Camp Award and many other awards that I don't feel like listing because there are so many of them, I'm tired of saying them all. He led the nation in receptions with 124, finished 2nd in yards with 1,727, 16 TDs. He played 40 games in his 3-year Alabama career, started 30 of them, and hauled in 31 TDs total.
Damn.
They could use help on the defensive side, too. They could really use a cornerback. According to our draft here, they could have the option of the top corner in Trae Waynes or one of the top wide receiver in Amari Cooper. And I think either way they go, it would be a good pick. But just like the Raiders with Carr, I think they got to go offense, put weapons around their young quarterback.
Yeah, if they didn't just draft Bridgewater last year, or if they had a little bit more established quarterback, I would say they might go with Waynes, because you always need to stop the other team's passing game also. But with a young guy like Bridgewater, you want to give him that safety net where when he feels like he's in trouble, sometimes he can just huck it up to him. Look what Plex was for Ben early in his career.
Poor Plex.
Shoots himself in the leg and everything goes downhill. Let's talk about an organization that shoots himself in the leg all the time. Our number 12 team, the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, they hold the most picks in the draft. They have 11 unrestricted free agents, including Brian Hoyer, Jordan Cameron, Miles Austin, and defensive back Buster Skrine. They don't plan on signing many people in free agency. Josh Gordon suspended.
Their quarterback's in rehab.
They did bring in Brian Hartline to visit them this week, so maybe they're thinking of replacing Miles Austin with Brian Hartline, that being an upgrade there, but that can't replace Josh Gordon for sure. But really, the GM is saying what they want to do is draft offensive and defensive line early in the draft and not worry about wide receiver right now. Do you believe it?
They can say it all they want, but they're going to fall in love with one of these wide receivers, whichever one's still available. They need to put more talent around Manziel. Cameron's gone. They got no running game. The offensive line isn't terrible, but it's not great either. I mean, you can't expect Manziel to do everything on his own. This is the pros. You can't just run around out there and gain all the yards by yourself. You're going to get laid out. He ain't even going to get on the field because the dude's going to be in rehab the rest of his life.
Yeah, if they're thinking about going offensive tackle or defensive tackle here, there's a lot of good ones available, like Malcolm Brown out of Texas, Andrews Pete, Stanford, Eric Flowers, Miami.
They can get one of those guys at the 19th pick.
Yeah, that's the thing. They have the 19th pick, too. I think they're just bluffing. With DeVante Parker still available, he's a very good wide receiver still. Now, if all three of those wide receivers, Parker, Cooper, and White, are gone, I could see it going a little bit differently. But with Parker still there, I think that's their pick.
Parker's 6'3", 209 pounds, runs a 4.45 40, 36.5-inch vertical jump. He consistently plays with outstanding body control. He has soft hands and elite concentration are his calling cards. He was credited with just 3 drops since 2012. Some of his weaknesses, he's linear and lacking ideal playing strength. He's not real physical. When you jam him at the line, he kind of almost gives up already like a floppy noodle. You got to be tougher than that in today's NFL, or you just have to jump every time you go to make a catch because they're not allowed to hit you until you hit the ground, take 4 steps, your grandma brings you your blankie and tucks you in for bed.
They could also use help at inside linebacker, but looking at what is available, I think this is a little bit too early to think about an inside linebacker right now, and they would definitely go O-line or D-line if not receiver.
This may even be a slight reach at 12 for Parker. Just because he's the 3rd best wide receiver in the draft doesn't necessarily mean he's a worth the 12th pick. But they need to put something around Manziel, and I think they're going to go after Parker because they're going to be desperate unless they get somebody in free agency. Now, say they sign Percy Harvin, maybe they think he's the answer.
Brian Hartline.
Then they may go after. So I just don't see Brian Hartline as more than a number 2.
That's what I said. It's like an upgrade to Miles Austin, not a replacement for
Right.
Josh Gordon.
But yeah, if they can get somebody who they feel is a bona fide number 1, they might not take Parker here, and they might stock up on D linemen or linebackers like they said. But they need somebody on offense, man. They got nothing.
Now at number 13, the Saints, they just restructured Colston's contract,
Correct.
but they're still a mess.
Oh, they're like $25 million over the cap. And Bree said he will not restructure.
And they need some help on their defensive side. They want to improve on their pass rush. Junior Gillette might miss most or part of the 2015 season. Another thing they need real bad, though, is a cornerback.
They've needed defensive help ever since Sean Payton got there. The year they won the Super Bowl, their defense caught fire and played real well down the stretch and got a lot of turnovers through that season, which is really what helped them be an elite defense that year. But they just can't seem to put it together on defense. They got to go after Trae Waynes, the Michigan State cornerback. He's 6 foot, 186 pounds. You may want to see him put on a little bit more weight as he moves through his NFL career. He does run a 4.3 140, 38-inch vertical, 4.39 shuttle. He has the agility and the hip swivel that an NFL cornerback needs, because when you're running down the field at full speed, looking over your shoulder, and you realize the ball is coming up over the other shoulder, you need to be able to turn your body, not lose the ball in the air, and not lose the receiver running his routes. And he definitely has all the talent to do that.
Yeah, I definitely like Trae Waynes here, and I think it is a good pick for him. But they need help on their interior line, too. And they're thinking about cutting ties with their nose tackle, Bunkley. And I think they'd really like to see Danny Shelton fall here. But I think he's going to go a little bit earlier, like we said. And really, if Fowler, Gregory, Ray, or Beasley fell to this spot, I think they would actually take one of them over Trae Waynes. But it doesn't look like that's going to happen at this point.
Well, when you need defensive help and cornerback's one of those, and the top-rated corner's still there at 13, you don't want to reach and, like you said, if Fowler, Gregory, Ray, Beasley, if any of those top guys aren't there, you got to take the top corner because you're not going to take the 5th best linebacker. I'd love Waynes to fall to Pittsburgh. It's not going to happen, but that'd be awesome.
No. Another guy I wouldn't mind seeing fall into Pittsburgh is our number 14 pick with the Dolphins, Kevin Johnson. Now, Miami, they have a lot of needs. They need help at cornerback, inside linebacker, nose tackle, free safety. They could use a little bit of help on the line. They need to bring in a wide receiver. A better running back wouldn't hurt. Let's work backwards. What'd I say? Running back. They could think about Melvin Gordon right here, Todd Gurley. I think it's a little bit too early for one of them still.
Way too early for Gurley with the injury issues.
Looking at wide receiver, the top 3 are off the board. There's lesser talent after those 3, I think, unless you want to take a chance on someone like Green Beckham. So I'd probably stay away from wide receiver in the first round if I was them. If they wanted a offensive guard, offensive lineman, they do have their choice besides Brandon Scherff, so they could possibly look that way. They need a safety. Louis Delmas is a free agent. He's probably going to start the season on the PUP list anyways. Michael Thomas and Jimmy Wilson are both free agents. Landon Collins is a strong safety, but he actually plays the same style as the one safety they do like on their team in Rashad Jones. So they're probably not going to look at Landon Collins here. Nose tackle, they could think about Malcolm Brown, Jordan Phillips, or Eddie Goldman. Inside linebacker, I think it's a little too early to go McKinney or Dawson.
For D-line, the Dolphins, from what I hear, are saying they're the front runners to sign Ndamukong Suh. So I think that's how they feel they're going to address that need at defensive line through free agency. So I could see him taking Kevin Johnson here, the cornerback out of Wake Forest. We had the Steelers taking Johnson in our first mock draft, correct? We had him dropping at 22. He graded out at 5.93. His 40 times only 4.52. That's a little slower than you would like out of a corner. He has the size at 6 foot 188. He's a younger guy, so he could still put on a little bit more weight. He has smooth hips, excellent balance, very natural in his man coverage. He has feet disciplined to play square and mirror against complex routes. A couple weaknesses: he has a lanky frame, like I just said. He's very thin lower body. He needs to put on a little bit of weight, a little bit of strength, hit the weight room. He does get fooled by head fakes and double moves downfield. He gets a little turned around a little too easy. NFL coordinators will pick that up right away, and they'll start hitting him with those double moves. I forget who it was on our defense for Pittsburgh. We were getting killed with that a couple years ago. It might have been Willie Gay. When you got to be able to pay attention to that, because if you get beat on double moves downfield all the time, you're going to get on a bench pretty quick. He was a 3-year starting cornerback. He showed great improvement in man coverage from 2013 to 2014. He does lack the desired weight, but his cover skills are there, and his competitiveness is there, which is one great thing. A lot of these young guys, they don't have that fire. A lot of NFL teams are digging into your background more. They want to know how much you love football, because some of these guys are just doing it to just do it. This guy seems like he really loves what he does.
Yeah, and I think it's a smart pick for him. Like I said, it's too early to go running back. The top receivers aren't there. They're not going to go safety. If they're going to sign Suh, they don't want to go nose tackle. It's too early for the linebacker. Cornerback's the best thing they can do here with Kevin Johnson available.
And he plays special teams, which is always a big thing. You see some of these veterans getting cut from teams, and you wonder why? Because these veterans aren't willing to play special teams. And if they can get a young guy with almost the same talent, who eventually will have the same talent, he's going to do whatever it takes to make the roster. So if they say go be the gunner on the punt team, he's all for it.
At number 15, we have the San Francisco 49ers. They could use upgrades at wide receiver, cornerback, offensive line, and the defensive front.
And quarterback.
Yeah, I know you don't like Kaepernick, but you also don't like 99% of the quarterbacks in the NFL.
As long as I like Big Ben, that's all that matters.
They got a new coach coming in. He's defensive-minded. I'd be pretty surprised if they went offense here, though. I don't think wide receiver's the smart pick in the first round.
Not now. The good guys are gone. You don't want to reach. They already got a good tight end in Vernon Davis. They got a couple backs that they like in their backfield. So the smart pick here would be to go defense.
Yeah, Michael Crabtree is a free agent, though, so they are going to have to address the situation at some point. And the same with offensive line. Iupati is going to be a free agent, and that Anthony Davis has been hurt a lot, so they're going to have to address that too on the offensive side. But I really like this D-tackle Arik Armstead we have here. We had him move up the draft a good ways.
Yeah, with Aldon Smith, I mean, you never know what the hell that guy's going to get arrested for next. I know he's great when he's on the field, but he's not on the field enough. Armstead, he's a big guy at 6'7", 292. You'd like to see him put on a little bit of weight being 6'7". He improved by leaps and bounds from 2013 to 2014. He has the elite size. He's quick off the ball. He explodes upfield into blockers with good pad level and hip snap. For a tall guy, he gets underneath blockers real well. A lot of these tall guys, when they come off the ball, the shorter guy gets underneath their pads real quick, jams them. They're completely out of the play before it even starts. Armstead's minded of that. He knows how to use his body and his arms to keep that from happening. He keeps the offensive lineman away from him.
All right, so let's round out our top 16 here. Number 16 is the Houston Texans. They're not expected to do much in free agency. they need to address the quarterback situation for one. They got to think about offensive line and possibly wide receiver now that Andre Johnson is gone.
Yeah, they're going to cut Johnson for who's down there with him?
DeAndre Hopkins.
Hopkins, yeah, he can't do it all himself. If he's getting all the double coverage, he's not going to be able to do it all himself. I don't think it's a smart move to cut Johnson.
And you look at last year's #1 pick, they used it on Jadeveon Clowney, we can remember.
Yeah, well, Clowney was supposed to be the can't-miss prospect coming out of the draft, and then his knee was beat, and he didn't do a damn thing.
They got a couple people about to be free agents, free safeties, Kendrick Lewis and Daniel Manning, as well as linebackers Brooks Reed and Akeem Dent. So they got to fill some positions this offseason.
Well, I think they're going to go with the offensive tackle Erik Flowers out of Miami. He's a big athletic frame, carrying more than 320 pounds with ease. He's an ascending mauler in the run game. He combines his hips, arm extension, and upper body to power through the defensive linemen. He's definitely a better run blocker than he is pass blocker. Obviously can work on that, but at 6'6", 329 pounds with a 34.5-inch arm length. He's going to get off the ball pretty quick, pretty easy. He's going to keep those defensive linemen far away from him.
Yeah, I like Flowers here, and they're really going to need help on the offensive line because in 2016, 16 players are going to be unrestricted free agents. 9 are going to be offense, and 5 of those are offensive linemen. So they're really going to have to start bringing some people in to shore up their front.
And with young quarterbacks, whether it's going to be Ryan Mallett may get re-signed, or they have, I think, that Tom Fitzgerald, was that his name, the guy they drafted out of Pitt? What was his name, Easy?
Savage,
Tom Savage. I don't know why I think it's Fitzgerald. They're going to need to run the ball well. And, Flowers is a good run blocker. You got Arian Foster in the backfield, so you could still move the sticks, let your young guy get more comfortable in the offense, or even if it's not a young guy, your new guy get more comfortable in a new environment. Running the ball helps. Seattle has shown the last couple of years that you can run the ball and still be a contender. You don't have to throw it for 5,000 yards like Peyton Manning.
So real quick, what are the 16?
All right, wrapping it up here. Tampa Bay, #1, Jameis Winston. Tennessee, #2, Leonard Williams. Jacksonville Jaguars at #3 with Dante Fowler Jr. Everybody's favorite team, the Oakland Raiders, are going to take Kevin White. The Washington Redskins, Randy Gregory. The Jets, Marcus Mariota, even though I think they could go a different way. Chicago Bears, Vic Beasley. Atlanta Falcons, Shane Ray. The New York Giants are going to look at defensive tackle Danny Shelton. The Rams, Brandon Scherff. The Vikings, Amari Cooper. The Browns, DeVante Parker. The Saints, Trae Waynes, the top cornerback on our board. The Dolphins, Kevin Johnson. San Francisco is going to look at Arik Armstead out of Oregon, and the Texans are going to take Erik Flowers to help shore up that run game.
I like it.
I like it a lot. Well, I want to thank you guys for coming in. I want to thank you fans for listening. You guys can follow us on Twitter at bet_the_spread. You can like us on Facebook, subscribe to that YouTube channel. A little over 20 new subscribers in the last week and a half. I want to say thanks to all you guys who are listening. Keep throwing us comments, whether you don't like us or you do like us. We always love to R you.